fix it. Government needs to, ensure that Nigerians do not pay more or pay so much for electricity. Already, the economy is biting hard and harder and harder on Nigerians. Things are not working as they should, and so no one should be increasing electricity tariffs at this time. Well, experts say, look, there's such a thing as the MYTO. That's the multi-year tariff order, which many Nigerians may not be very aware of how it works and how it functions. All of that we would be talking about this morning, which help to try to understand what the MYTO is all about. That's the multi-year tariff, and we're going to be talking with someone who knows a lot about these things. Is the former spokesperson for the AEDC, Mr. Fadikbe, is going to be joining us later on on the show. So keep it with us this morning. If you have concerns or any questions that you have, anything that you want sorted out, or anything that you need clarification on, he is one of the best persons that would be sharing thoughts with us this morning, so we understand what it is that we're dealing with as a nation when it comes to electricity. Keep the conversation going. The numbers to call 09073530044 and 09087668888. You can send SMS and WhatsApp messages to 09097054450. That is 09097054450. I'll bring in my guest shortly. Keep it with us. All right, thank you again for staying with us on. The conversation continues now. We're talking about electricity tariffs, and in 2005, the NERC and the Electricity Act was put in place, and many Nigerians may not even know what that entails. But then this morning we have someone who will help us understand some of the things that happened. Last year we saw the distribution companies rise up to say, look, the federal government is trying to renationalize some of the discos after they privatized them. They raised issues that, even when they acquired some of the distribution companies, that there wasn't valid or available information available to them. Certain data was not available to them. The BPE couldn't provide some of this data and that they needed to ensure that the distribution companies were viable enough for business. They also say that the federal government owes a 100 billion naira subsidy debt that hasn't been paid, and ministries, departments, and the agencies are owing the companies. And so, how can they flourish as a business? How can they succeed as business organizations? We'll be talking this morning. I told you earlier, my guest is the former spokesperson of the AEDC, Mr. Bode Fadikbe. He is an expert in these things. He's going to help us understand what it is that we're dealing with as a country. Good morning, Mr. Fadikbe. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Fadikbe, can you hear me? Okay.
You hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now loud and clear. Good to have you join us.
Okay, I was responding to your greetings. Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians who are listening on this platform. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're
my
here.
My apologies for not being able to come to your studio physically.
It's okay. At least technology helps us see you. At least we can see you. Those of you who are watching online, you can get onto YouTube and Facebook as well to, join the conversation. Mr. Fadikbe is joining us live there on online. Now, Happy New Year to you, by the way. Mr. Fadikbe, Happy New Year to you. I don't know if you get that. But then let's get into the conversation. Nigerians woke up to...
Thank you very much. I have the same. Maybe
Seems like yeah, it seems like the network would not allow us hear you clearly. But no, let's get on with
I think
it.
there's a lag somewhere.
Yes. Anyway, let's get to this conversation about electricity tariffs. Nigerians woke up to increase electricity tariffs, and some of them have said, "Look, this is illegal." The Human Rights Writers Association have said, "Look, government needs to look at this and revert itself, or reverse that tariff increment. Nigerians cannot continue to pay more for electricity at this time. Things are hard and all that." What do you make of how did this come about? I know that we have the multi-year tariff order, which says that there's going to be yearly reviews, slight reviews, and then major reviews every 5 years. Walk us through this so that Nigerians can understand why it is that every year there is some level of increment. But this time around, it seems like this one is so significant, it's so much that Nigerians cannot bear.
Let me dispel and said that it's an illegal of if you which tend to apply look.
Okay, this seems to be a lot of work for us this morning. We'd have to reconnect with Mr. Fadigbe so we can have a smooth conversation. I'm hoping that we would be able to do that shortly. Anyway, keep it with us. We'll be talking some more. All right, thank you again for staying with us. We have a better connection with Mr. Fadigbe now. Let's get back to the conversation. Mr. Fadigbe, you were talking earlier about, you were trying to help us understand why this, new year came with an increased electricity tariff. Started in December. Help us understand it.
Yes, what I was trying to say. There are two types of review in the power sector. There is the major and there is the minor review. Minor review comes at a more frequent rate than the major review. The minor review does not require certain activities before it is taken up. For instance, in the minor review, you really don't need to consult with the public. But all reviews are driven by certain parameters, one, micro and macroeconomic indicators, the level of inflation, and some other parameters that usually, and I think one of them is also the value of the USD, which is, United States dollar, strangely enough. That's one of the things that would determine the price of our own local commodity is also the USD. But having said that, for the major review, it also follows that trajectory, but there are one or two other factors that is usually considered, and that factor has to do with the consultation with the general public. Now, for the ones that have taken place, the operators or the market participants, as it were, hold the view, and NEC has agreed with them that the current trend of the economy is such that they cannot sustain production on the basis of the price that they are currently charging. And of course, this is a fact that is very clearly open to everybody. We know the cost of, we know the level of inflation in this country today. Practically everything has gone up. There is nothing you bought last year, at least for household items like food items. I know that no anybody buying a bag of rice would not have bought it for less than about 40,000 naira if it did not go above that during the Christmas. And the operators, the market participants, which is the entire value chain, the generating companies, the transmission company, and of course the distribution companies, they also operate within this same market. So it becomes a little bit very difficult for them to say that they are sustaining the same old price that they had been charging for electricity before. Now, having said that, the MYTO itself, which is by interpretation means the multi-year tariff order, is essentially an instrument with which NEC, that is Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, is able to adjust the price of electricity either upwards or downwards. We have not seen a major downward review since privatization. We have not seen a major downward review. But it's expected that over a period of time, I think around 2025 or so, we should be able to see a downward review, assuming that everything goes the way it has been projected or predicted to go. Otherwise, if it does not go that way, then it means that we are likely to continue with this trajectory of price adjustment and things like that. Let me stop for now on that note.
Well, I like that you try to explain why there is, but then looking at the situation, inflation is one of the reasons for which this review happens yearly. The inflation has gone up 21% in the last year, or rather, we currently have a 21% inflation rate, and this is something that cuts across. All Nigerians are dealing with this. All Nigerians are suffering this. The reason Nigerians are lamenting now is because, it's not like things have gotten better for them. It's not like the electricity supply has gotten any better. Why do we increase, the tariff if service provision or, service providers haven't done, what's required of them to ensure that the service is available? If service was available, maybe Nigerians wouldn't be complaining this much, because I know people who have said, well, look, we've gone several days, several months without electricity, but then there's new tariff we have to pay.
Now, Prince, I tell you the truth, first of all, it's a cyclical argument. The second thing I want to say is that those who hold the view that price increase is unjustified because of the paucity of a quality service, you cannot blame them. Frankly, you cannot blame them. Because when I pay for instance, I know that shortly before I left AEDC, the service reflective tariff or service-based tariff, as it were, came into operations, and then the customers were put into different bands. You had band A, band B, band C, band D, and band E. And let's take band A and band B for instance. Band A supposes, if you belong to band A, it presupposes that your service should be at least 20 hours. So, and then of course the maximum hours in a day, 24 hours. So you should, if there's anything like 25/8, then anybody in band A should be able to get power for 25 hours in a day and 8 days in a week. So what that means is that if I am not getting that quality service, then why are you increasing my tariff? That's a very legitimate question to ask. But let's flip the coin. What is the production cost? Because we cannot look at this discussion from just one side alone. What is the production cost? How much does it cost to provide the service? Now, by the time you start looking at the cost indicators, then you begin to come to the issue of economy of scale. Usually, when you have little number of people paying for a particular good, the tendency is that they will pay higher because it will be a pass-through cost. Take, for instance, gas is there, and we know what is happening, unfortunately, between Ukraine and Russia, and that has affected energy globally. So, even in advanced economies, all of those pains are there. Europe, UK, for instance, is usually very scared. France, Germany, all of them are worried about the war that is going on between Russia and Ukraine because it is affecting gas, and gas is affecting energy, heating, and all of those things. So now we cannot be isolated from the global community, what is happening in the global community. But you see, part of the problem that we are having today is a history of mismanagement of not just the power sector but of the entire Nigerian economy. I was ashamed to read of the fact that 77 million trillion naira debt is not anything to worry about. For an economy of this nature, somebody in the DMO's office, debt management office, will tell Nigerians that don't worry that you have a 77 million naira debt hanging on you.
Trillion.
When we are supposed to. What is happening in the power sector today is a situation where you find yourself unable to escape price or price increase, yet the service that you are getting is not commensurate to the money that you are supposedly paying. However, even the discos themselves or the operators themselves will tell you that ab initio, from the beginning, we were not even charging the right amount that we are supposed to charge. So the question is, when you go into the economics of power supply or the economics of electricity, what are customers supposed to be paying for a unit of electricity? Is it the argument that we have not really paid the right price,
but
so that we are unable to recover? Are we paying subsidy on electricity as well? Mm-hmm. That is the question. Mm-hmm. If we are paying subsidy on electricity, then the price increase is justified because government is saying, I can no longer carry that burden. I just need to start withdrawing gradually from carrying that burden.
You know, I like that you touched on, the subsidy. If Nigeria has been paying subsidy on electricity and also funding the private, private organizations, the discos that were acquired in 2013, the federal government has, also been able to fund these companies. Shouldn't Nigerians be able to enjoy the electricity at lesser tariffs because federal government is, one, subsidizing, secondly, it is also funding the private organizations?
Now you have touched on a very, very critical issue. Observers of the private sector, of the power sector, are wondering whether there is actually privatization or it's just a transfer of equity. Because one of the fundamental reasons why government went on a privatization spree was to stop government from providing funds for the power sector, not just to stop government, not just to make sure that government funds does not go into the power sector, but that the power sector should even be a contributor to the national economy by paying profit, by paying out of their profit to the federal government, so that federal government can have. It was part of the broad policy of diversification of the economy. I listened attentively to the Honorable Minister of Finance when she was trying to unravel all of the issues around the 2023 budget. And she said, one of the things that she said was that oil is no longer the main source of financing of the economy. That was a very, very interesting, very encouraging, and very promising statement to hear from the federal government, that we have been able to move away from the mono economy that oil gave us to an economy that can be dualized, that can come from a a 3D perspective or a 4D perspective, from different perspectives, we can feed into the economy, a multi-stream economy. But you see, the truth of the matter is, the way the power sector is currently is in a very, very sad state. As we speak right now, government has spent, close to 2 trillion since privatization. And then we ask the question, why then did you privatize? Why did you privatize if you're still going to be spent? Because I am convinced, and I stand to be challenged, that if government had the courage to hold on to this 2 trillion and then did not privatize and funded the then NEPA or the then PACN and hold people accountable, I am very sure that the power sector will not be where it is today. I am very sure of that. Because shortly before privatization, as a test run, the companies that were registered that were eventually sold to private sectors were drawing funds from the national budget. They will go through their appropriation, go to the National Assembly, defend their budget, and there was budget implementation monitoring from the Office of the Accountant General and from the Office of the Auditor General. Even the National Assembly was doing its oversight function. They were visiting locations that were said to have been given projects. And once your project is not there, you know you are in deep trouble as a civil servant. People went to jail in Rural Electrification Agency. People went to jail, and people were afraid of going to jail. So it would have worked better. So it is government that should tell us why they privatize and they are still spending money. They are the ones that should tell us.
Interesting. Well, the conversation continues because ANED, which is the Association of Nigeria Electricity Distributors, raised certain concerns last year around the restructuring of management, of the discos. Some of the discos seem to be having taken over what they refer to as renationalization of the discos. We're going to be talking about that because it seems like at least 5 discos have been handed over or have been quite taken over by the BPE, the federal government at this time. We need to know what that is and how that is affecting the power sector as well. Keep it with us. The conversation continues here on your radio experience. You can count on Mr. Oyebode is our guest this morning. He is the former head of corporate communications, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. We'll be talking more with him this morning. Keep it with us. The conversation continues.
Shine like this, we go there. 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 I know you wait to make things for change. Now make we join and we can better. Say I know you wait to make things for change. Now make we join us, we can better. Once upon a time, they tell us say $1 is equals to 1 naira. Once upon a time, we go travel from Lagos to London and you know the visa. Once upon a time, you go graduate from school and the government go dash you car. Once upon a time, you go take train from Oshodi down to Ojuelegba. Once upon a time, now everything done bamboo. Corruption seems unstoppable. The hardship is unbearable. It's unbearable. What till we go do it? Lord, I cannot take this pain no more. Shine like this, we go there. Shine like this, we go there.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja. Borrow me 20k like this.
Oga Yellow, you never hear Nyanga bid Wheel of Fortune 20k jackpot? You sit down here, they look, but that is just they pass you. Oh yeah, bring your phone, go Play Store, App Store, and download Nyanga bid Woof. Start the spin and win.
I don't win. I don't win. I don't win.
Only anybody can win. If you win your bid, you go inside.
Nyanga bid, Nigeria's 100 naira online market.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
From Milky Way to Earth, everywhere there's internet, you can connect with Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. Log on to our website www.eaglesfm.com. Follow and engage with us now on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok at EaglesFM Abuja, Instagram at EaglesFM 1023. Download our apps on your Android and iOS stores. Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja, your radio experience you can count on.
Thank you for staying with us on your radio experience. You can count on. The conversation this morning is understanding the electricity tariff, which some people have said secretly has gone up, has adjusted secretly, and the Nigerians are not happy with it. We're also trying to understand the multi-year tariff order and all the things that's happening in the electricity sector. Mr. Oyebode Fadigbe is the former head of corporate communications, AEDC. He's helping us understand some of these things, and quite an interesting conversation it's been. He's also been able to lay out his thoughts on the privatization, which and I find quite interesting. Now, Mr. Fadigbe, before we took that pause, we were talking. I said we were going to talk about the seeming restructuring of the management of distribution companies. The Kaduna, Benin, the AEDC, as well as even the Port Harcourt electricity distribution companies seem to have been restructured. The ANED says it's a systemic takeover of the these companies that are supposed to be private companies. What do you make of this? Were you also affected by this restructuring? Help us understand it.
There are sentiments, private, and I dare say maybe even official sentiments around the issue of whether government should not take over the power sector. I remember very clearly that when the current Minister of Works and Housing was superintending over the affairs of the power sector, conversations became very obvious around that sentiment of government taking over, because it became very clear that something is patently wrong with the privatization, both the model and the implementation of the model. The sentiments expressed by ANED, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, is not without justification. I mean, as the umbrella body for the discourse, especially, and that means they are a major stakeholder. They are asking the question: are you not, by your current action, renationalizing the power sector? If that is what you want to do, then come very clear. Let's lay the cards on the table so that we can also ask for our entitlement, because this is a relationship that is guided by law. It's a contractual relationship, and if any party is doing anything to bring about frustration, to bring about the inoperability of that contract, then the law should naturally take its course. And then ANED, to the best of my knowledge, itemize some issues that government itself, for which it is holding government accountable for what has been largely described as inefficiency in the disco arm of the power sector. And one of them is the MDA debt, ministries, departments, and agencies. Their debt is there. They also spoke about 100 billion naira that government was supposed to provide, maybe as a buffer fund to help the discourse, and quite a number of things. But again, members of the public are asking, interested members of the public, analysts and people who are concerned are asking, excuse me, can we say that the discourse have been as efficient as they ought to be? Now, if they have not been as efficient as they ought to be, what is the government supposed to do? Should the government then lay back and continue to allow them? Because you cannot, electricity is too crucial for you to allow without some form of government eagle eye. I mean, having its eagle eye on it. I understand that in Egypt, the man in charge of electricity for that country reports to the president every morning the state of electricity. That's how important electricity is, because it's a major driver of the economy. I mean, look at where the world is going to today. Everybody is coming to green energy. Everybody is looking for electricity to drive their economy. And here we are, there's electric car. Look at what the world is becoming in terms of artificial intelligence. They need electricity to charge the batteries of those robots that we go on errands here and there, do so many things. Okay, so electricity will continue to be in exponential demand. And then people are saying, look, if government is taking over 5, where has BPE been all along? Because BPE is on the board of these discos. Did they not see the performances of these discos? That's one. NEC itself, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, is supposed to be doing what can be aptly described as quasi audit through what they call the open book. That open book allowed them to see the spending pattern of the discos. They put a ceiling on it. The disco exceeds the ceiling in the area of capital and recurrent expenditure, OPEX and CAPEX. Did they exceed the ceiling? If they exceeded the ceiling, was there a justification? Did they provide a cogent, a genuine, a legal justification for the exceeding of that limit? And what the regulatory agency and the quasi-regulatory agency, what did they do to check the disco before it got to the point where they had to call back the ownership? Because what government is saying is that it is a commercial transaction between the banks that provided the funding acquisition equity and the disco themselves. Fine and good. But government also has told us that they have a golden share, which is 40% in the disco. So the debate will continue, and parties to this contractual relationship will continue to defend their turf. But unfortunately, and I dare say it, unfortunately, the grass, which is the proverbial grass, is the one that is suffering. I can tell you for free that there are customers who have lost their transformer and they do not have any hope of replacement. Even the discos are operating, some of the discos that are concerned are so lackadaisical. They tell customers to their face, if you can't provide the transformer, good luck and goodbye. No electricity for you again. I mean, it is as ridiculous as that. I don't want to mention the name of any disco, but I know exactly what I'm saying. I know of a particular location in this country since August last year. Still, as I am talking to you, there has not been a blink of electricity in that place. And the customers complained, and the disco said, if you don't provide the transformer, goodbye and good night. And yet, it is the responsibility of the disco to provide electricity for the customers in that location. So what are we talking about? So it's a cyclical argument. Can anybody imagine that we will come, even in the days of NEPA, it was not as bad that a community, unless that community has not tasted electricity at all before, that the community will stay since August last year. August last year to date is how many months? It's about 18 months. Because between August and December is about 5 months. And I'm talking of, August 2021. Not even last year, August 2021. So August to December is about 5 months. January to December is 12 months. That's at least 17 clear months.
This is
anyway.
Well, I'll bring in our callers now, and then we'll get to talk about transmission, the power transmission. Nigeria at the moment has a situation where the transmission company is fully owned by the government, and DISCO is also saying, look, Nigeria, the transmission company or the transmission company needs to be further unbundled to accommodate the private sector, so that we can actually be able to meet our transmission targets, and because that's one of the biggest problems. We'll talk about that shortly, but in the meantime, join the conversation if you have questions or comments to make. 09073530044. That is 09073530044 and 09087668888. You can send SMS and WhatsApp messages to 09097054450. Now, Mr. Fadikwe, we say Nigeria, generates about 12,000 megawatts, over 12,000 megawatts of electricity, but then the DISCOs do not have, or the transmission company cannot even, distribute this or transmit this to the distribution companies, and that's one of the major reasons why power has been a problem in this country. What do you think? Do you think there's a semi-sabotage on the part of government, or that we're not ready to really fix this? Because I mean, if transmission has been the problem ever since, why can't we boost the capacity to be able to dispense or distribute this electricity? Because as it is, it seems like DISCOs do not have the capacity to take in more electricity as generated by the generating companies in the country.
I think, contrary to, with profound respect to your position, contrary to that position, I think for once we can commend government for what it is doing. I mean, we've seen a lot of activities around the transmission sector of the economy. I mean, I can say confidently that the days that we put the whip on the back of the transmission company seem to be over. And I am using the word seem advisedly, because in this country today, no sooner you start seeing traction, and then all of a sudden the thing stops, and then you are not seeing the same traction again. If transmission goes the way, if transmission continues the way we have seen them in the last 90 days, 91-20 days, if they continue along that trajectory for, say, the whole, even for the remaining part of the current administration, the lifetime of the current administration, I can tell you that there will be a glut of equipment to be installed. It will only mean the problem will then be the availability of the logistics, because in recent times transmission has brought in a lot of equipment. Let's not forget the fact that the same transmission has suffered a lot of sabotage by vandals who go to different locations in the country to pull down critical national assets to which the transmission company of Nigeria belongs. And I think this is one point we must stress. It's so unfortunate that as Nigerians, we are the ones sabotaging ourselves. How can we have such a critical national asset like the transmission lines in the south, in almost all over the country, in the southwest, in the north? People go around to pull down transmission lines, and we want the transmission company of Nigeria to be efficient. It's practically impossible. So if transmission, and again, I must also again draw attention to the Presidential Power Initiative. I know that I have engaged with the Chief Technical Officer a couple of times, Engineer Dr. Iheanacho. I've engaged with him a couple of times to see exactly what they are doing, because again, by reason of by my new portfolio, we get involved in power sector advisory, and then in the process you begin to get information here and there. So I've interacted with that gentleman, and I know a lot of things that are going on to give transmission company that teeth that it requires, so that whatever is coming from generation, they can take it full blast. The conventional wisdom is that whatever generation is able to do, transmission should be able to do 2 times that capacity. So if our generation is about 13,000 megawatts, transmission should be able to carry 26. and distribution should be able to carry at least 26,000 plus 50% of that, which is maybe about 39,000 or 40,000. That is the way the power sector ought to operate. But what we find today is that capacity is available in generation, but there's limitation with transmission. Thank God transmission is removing all of those limitations, opening up the space, investing a lot in equipment and network development. But the last leg of the value chain is moving at an embarrassingly slow and low pace. So transmission for now is not the transmission you used to know, and I stand to be challenged. And you can do your investigations. You can do your transmission that you used to know is not the same transmission that that is there now. There has been an improvement. They may not have gotten to where they ought to be. I'm not saying they have gotten there, but I can tell you that there has been a movement beyond where they were that gave the country a great deal of concern. I do hope and I pray that in the whole of 2023 they don't suffer any form of voltage, system collapse, or what you normally call grid system outage.
All right, let's bring in callers quickly. We have callers on the line who have been waiting. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Prince Iheanacho. Zion Prince calling in.
Good to have you, Zion Prince.
Thank you. Mr. Sadikbe has been defending AEDC or power holding or NEPA, they choose to call themselves, over years, and he's still doing a good job of it even after retirement.
At this point, I don't think he's defending anybody or defending.
We have been hearing him over the years. So what I'm saying now is this: there's no justification for power tariff increase now for any reason. He even said that because the AEDC is finding difficult to recoup all that they are spending because of lack of the insufficiency of government funding. And I miss a contradiction that power generation and production is suffering a glitch. It's a contradiction. Like you can't juxtapose the two together.
I don't think you got him clearly, because I understand that he had mentioned earlier that at this point he doesn't even believe that federal government should have been funding discos or giving them monies.
But in any way, he said that he was justifying the reason why it could be increment. I had that.
Yes, because there's been a plan over years, a 15-year plan. That's the MYTO, which is supposed to have upward reviews based on inflation and the likes. Anyway, I'm going to have him respond.
Nigeria witnessed what the power holding or ADC company post every time of what they generate. And this money they generate is at the cost of customers who are not actually benefiting power supply. I told you the other time that in my own small house, I pay 17,000 today, tomorrow 26,000. The last bill I received was 43,000 naira. What am I enjoying in the house? Over the months, you can hardly say a day we have night for maybe 3 hours. I don't know which bank now they will put us, whether it's A bank or B bank or C bank and B bank as they call it. Those who enjoy 24 hours, 20 hours per day. AEDC is living below expectation. It's one of the problems of Nigeria, where corruption and deception thrive.
All right.
It's a big blow to services being rendered to Nigeria.
Thank you.
There's much to say about them.
Thank you. Let's have him. Let's have him.
Sorry, sir. Can I just make this clarification?
Yes, please go ahead.
I am not speaking. I have not spoken, and I will not speak about AEDC again. I did not mention them in my analysis. I don't have the I don't have the authority to speak for them, and I don't want to be misquoted. What I have tried to do is to be an analyst, bring both sides. On the customer side, should they be made to suffer another increase when the service is not available? On the service provider side, are they getting enough for the service that they are providing? Some of these people that are speaking about the power sector, they are also businessmen. Let us ask them the question, if they are the traders involved in this business, how much will they sell the commodity? That's the fair thing. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not defend. I mean, in the days when I was in AEDC, it was my responsibility to defend, but I even defended ethically. Where AEDC was wrong, I pointed out that in this area, AEDC was wrong. I'm not speaking for them and I'm not defending them, but I'm just trying to respond to the comments of the gentleman. Please, let it not be that somebody will now go to AEDC and say, oh, Mr. Padipet is parish or Mr. Padipet is defended. I'm not speaking for them. I'm not speaking against them, and I'm not missing them.
Actually,
everybody will get to a point where he has to leave a job. By the grace of God, I got to that point. I spent 38 years in the power sector. I think that was a sufficient time to leave. And I give glory to God for that.
Very well spent. Time well spent. You did a fantastic job at that while you were there. Hello, good morning.
Hello, my friend, good morning.
Paul, quickly, you have 1 minute to make your submission.
My problem with the government is I think there's a double standard somewhere. If not, how can you privatize an entity and then you keep on borrowing money for them to run that entity? How can you say you don't? People will always be saying all sorts of things that government has no business in doing business. Government handed over the business to private people to run, and then yes, they will still go back and be collecting money from government to run their own private business. This is where we are getting it wrong. And then you are coming. Nobody will even say these are the things. You call them. The way they talk to you, sir, as a customer, you have a phone. You call them. The way they talk to you, you feel as if they are doing you a favor. You are so by answering your call. Everything now, okay, deliberately. Even when there are meters, they select the places they want to give meters to, and they stop at the place. They won't continue there. Lagos is worse. You come, they'll come and your neighbor will give them meter. They'll say it's not your time. It's just business everywhere.
All right, Paul.
They should think about, look, we should stop talking about all these privatization things, sir. They are not benefiting from it.
Okay,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Mr. Fadipe, in 1 minute as we close, we're talking about meter rollouts, and as well, I want us to touch on the place of NBET, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company. What is their role in all of this? Should we be holding NBET responsible for anything, especially when it comes to the subsidy and the likes?
I didn't get that question.
I said, should we be holding NBET responsible for anything, especially when it comes to the federal government's subsidy payments to the distribution companies?
Well, if you look at the mandate of NBET, I don't think it would be right to hold them responsible for subsidy. The principal responsibility of NBET is to stand as a bridge between the value chain and customers. So what are they supposed to do? They buy the energy and ensure that it is available to the customers, so that at the end of the day they make sure that when the value chain is not able to meet up, then they provide the funds. Maybe that's where the issue of the subsidy comes in. But I think let's not go into the philosophy of the NBET. In Africa, it is generally believed that as a single buyer model, it's not the best for the power sector. But let's not go into all of those philosophical interpretations now. Government, in its wisdom, brought in NBET so that the sector does not suffer total collapse. That's why NBET is there, Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trader. They are the trading firm they buy from the value chain and then make sure it is available to customers and then pay them. And then as the value chain recovers from the customers, they pay into the market, and then the fund is distributed amongst all participants in the market. MBED is playing a critical role in that respect. Market operator is playing a very, very critical role. Market operator is located within the transmission company of Nigeria. That's another debate entirely as to the independence of the market operator, given the fact that transmission company of Nigeria is also a fundamental, a central player in the market. So people are asking, how can the market operator be domiciled in the transmission company of Nigeria when the transmission company of Nigeria is a player? It's just like picking somebody, a player in Chelsea, to come and be the referee in the match between Chelsea and another EPL team. How can, I mean, is there any fairness in that? So, but to answer your question straightforwardly, I think, and this is my position, MBED, in spite of the philosophical challenges that may be around that policy structure, MBED is there to stand as a bridge between the service provider and the customer so that the sector does not, come to a standstill, and then the customer is in trouble, and then the whole nation is in trouble.
Mr. Yebode Fadipe, former head of corporate communications at Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation this morning. I'd also want to make it clear that Mr. Fadipe is speaking in his capacity as an analyst and someone who has worked in the electricity sector for many years and understands what goes on in the sector. He was in speaking for any organization. He's speaking on his own accord as a Nigerian who has worked in the sector. Thank you again for joining us in the conversation.
Thank you sincerely for that clarification. I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, and this is where we drop the anchors of the conversation this morning. Join us again tomorrow at the top of the hour 9.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.